Did you ever watch The Rifleman as a kid? I may have been born in the 80s, but I grew up on it.
The Rifleman!
And these ranchers ate one special meal whenever they came to town for dinner. Pot roast. A fancy meal, a humble meal, but a very Wild West hotel kind of meal. And that's what we're making today, over the campfire. It all starts with good ranch beef, root cellar vegetables, and a bed of hot coals on the outdoor fire. Okay, we have the table all laid for dinner. This is kind of a fancy one, but of course it all starts with humble ingredients. Let's get started on a really special meal. Our guests are about to arrive any minute. Let's make sure everything is laid the way we want, and we'll get that pot roast off of the campfire. I doubt many of us remember great-grandma cooking this way, on the open fire. But it wasn't too long ago that the West was won, and this 1889 homestead house was brand new. It's going to be hot and smoky cooking over the campfire. It'd be even hotter on that wood-burning cook stove inside. This meal, well, it won't leave anyone hungry tonight. Okay, the perfect complement to a dinner like pot roast would be something like biscuits. But I can do one even better because out here on the plains, a sourdough tortilla or flatbread would be perfect with a hot, bubbly bit of pot roast. So that's what we're gonna make right now.
I brought the plate.
Thank you, Goose.
Roll them out.
Yes. Now if they start to stick at all, just stop, okay? And we'll add more flour. Okay, you do it. Roll them out, nice and thin.
Can you have me a bit of flour?
Sure, ready? Sprinkle. This dough is dead simple to whip up. I'll toss the recipe in the description if you'd like to taste this Old West flavor. But before any of these sourdough tortillas hit the hot cast iron skillet, the main course needs to be tended to. And that all started hours earlier with getting the fire lit and the Dutch oven scoured and the lard sizzling. It takes all sorts of tools when cooking over an open fire. Of course, everything starts with an axe and a whole heap of firewood. A big cast iron Dutch oven, iron forks, a trivet, and always a pitcher of hot water going for greasy hands. Now, when I went to grab the iron oven, I found it was not in great shape. The big iron oven got a little rusty on me and it needed a bit of scouring before it was ready for searing the chuck. Hot water and a bundle of wheat straw does the trick. Cleanliness is a big deal, and it was a big deal in history, especially when using iron cookware and open campfire cooking. It was harder to be a clean cook. You can't just flip on the oven or the gas range when cooking like our ancestors did. Hot. Whew. I'll tell you what, it might be hot on the cook stove in the cabin, but it's hot by the campfire too. In goes the lard to start sizzling. Now this step is critical not just to a delicious tasting meal, but to a beautiful one. Dredging it in flour and a bit of pepper will give us color and a crust. The serving of this meal will be as lovely as the flavor itself. Some recipes call for browning at the end, but I've found that right at the start is the most achievable because by the end, we want this to be falling apart tender while just holding together. It's not a stew. This is a pot roast, a very critical difference. That didn't sizzle. Okay, that's not right. Gauging temperature is not always easy over a campfire. We've got to get more hot coals going. These ones cooled off too much, so I'm adding firewood on one side while scraping up hot coals to push under the iron pot. You know, while I'm cooking, it's really important I have hot coals where the Dutch oven is doing its work. I don't really want the Dutch oven sitting right in a bunch of smoking wood, with tall flames. That's not the ideal for cooking. So I sort of have two fires. I have the coals, and that's where I'm using the Dutch oven and occasionally the big tin hot water jug. But then I also have the fire that I'm trying to keep going to get me more coals for cooking. But the whole purpose of that fire is just to make coals.
The recipe from our turn of the century cookbook says it must cook for 3 to 3½ hours over a steady fire. Turn occasionally and add more boiling water as needed, only enough to keep from scorching. 1/2 cup vinegar is a very great improvement.
Now, I'm gonna put some apple cider vinegar in. When I looked at old recipes, they talk about adding vinegars after the first hour or two, and maybe an hour and a half to a couple hours before it's ready to be done. So this is apple cider vinegar that was pressed right here on the ranch from apple trees that grew right here on the ranch. Some years we get apples, some years we don't. So this is always really precious. I'm grateful to my mother-in-law who made this batch. Next year, I'm gonna do my part and learn to make this too. But for now, let's use the little bit we have left. And I'm gonna add about 1/2 cup straight into the meat and water that we've got over the campfire. I think this step is gonna take it to the next level. I think the kids and I are gonna go take a break. We've got the pot roast seared nice and hot. The Dutch oven is holding heat great. We've got a good bed of coals, and I put in about 1 inch deep of water. Now it's just a matter of time. That waiting game to let the meat break down. I'm gonna take these kids away from here, the campfire's safe, and we're gonna go walk down to the creek and dip our feet in the water, see if we can get the barn cats to join us, and go enjoy the beautiful day. It doesn't all have to be work, right? Your homesteader woman of the 1800s, she did not have a lot of time to relax and sit back and just enjoy these days. But I'm sure there were moments in between all the work that had to be done. And I know that even for us today, just trying to make one good meal for the whole family, it takes all my thought and planning and preparation just to do that. And I don't even have to think about doing the laundry, making provisions for winter that will get us through. In a lot of ways, my mind is much more at ease than any man or woman back in the 1880s, back in those homesteader days. In June, we've already been hit by big hailstorms, big thunderstorms. So all the beauty here is fleeting and it comes at a price. But man, is it worth it. These moments right here. The campfire's going, food is cooking, we're down at the creek with our feet in the water, with a big hammock. That's where I think I can be grateful for the time period we live in today, but I can also miss the beauty and the honesty of a life that's long gone now. It had a lot of natural beauty to it. It had hardship, no doubt. But I don't know, there's a lot of our modern stresses I would trade in a heartbeat to be able to go back to those simpler times. So even if today we just get to taste it, we just get the gist of what that life felt like just for a moment, well, I think that's worth it. And I'm gonna enjoy every bit. When we got back from playing down at the creek and getting cooled off, almost all the water had evaporated out. So I've added in more cool water that should heat up in a flash thanks to those hot coals. And I've put more firewood onto the main fire. Okay, the kids are still down at the creek. I've got a chance to get the rest of my ingredients chopped and ready, because although this meat is gonna cook for a number of hours, I'm not gonna add the vegetables until later on in the process. Because I don't want them to just turn to pulp, right? I want there to be some tooth to the carrots and the onions. So let's jump onto that before the kids get back. I'm just taking the tops off of these carrots, but I'm leaving the full length. Partly because I want that rustic look. Once this meat is closer to being done, and I only have about an hour left, I'm gonna lift the meat up, and I'm gonna tuck these carrots underneath like a little grate that the meat can sit on. So the juices drain down, they cook the carrots absorb all that goodness, and we'll have these beautiful rustic looking vegetables at the end to go along with our pot roast. Because we're not making beef stew. I don't just want chunks of everything tucked into this. I want this to be a really special family meal. And part of the way I'm gonna do that is the aesthetic of the vegetables, right? It's rustic, obviously. These are about as simple of ingredients as you can get, but I still want it to be beautiful.
Now, before the chopping of the vegetables could begin, we had to have vegetables in the first place. The kids and I had a solution to that, as well as a way to keep ourselves cool for at least a minute. Now, there's no fridge off-grid here, but there is a crude place for food storage. A homesteader back in the day would have had a proper dugout root cellar, probably in the bank of the hill outside, and probably lined with stone and brushed with lime wash. But that's not what we've got. You're a goof. The stone foundation under this house is quite cool at the moment and perfect for holding over some root vegetables. Carrots? Yes. Celery? Unlikely to have been on the table for a homestead pot roast, at least in Montana. But here it is. Onions? Definitely. You could grow these well up in the north and store them straight in the ground or in the root cellar. And there are a few other things actively growing in our rough and tumble garden that are key to this dish. A sharp knife cuts us a few sprigs of thyme from the garden, and some purple sage too. No bay leaves out here. Never underestimate the power and flavor of herbs when it comes to meat like this. We would sure miss them if we didn't have them.
You heard a rattlesnake?
We heard a rattlesnake.
You heard a rattlesnake? By the creek?
Yeah.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Do you want me to go back and check?
A rattlesnake it was not. We're pretty lucky, knock on wood, that those creatures have not yet been found on the ranch, but they were a fear for many homesteaders out west. Alright, vegetables are chopped and ready to go into the Dutch oven, but cleanup along the way is critical, so a quick dip of the hands into cool water, a wipe of the cutting board, and one extra step to preserve this hefty tool. A rubbing down with beeswax and a mineral oil paste. A friend made us this chopping board, and the spoons are either made by me or by good friends, so a monthly rub down keeps them lasting year after year after year. Into the Dutch oven go the vegetables. We're now about 3 hours in to the meat cooking away over the campfire, and it's already becoming so tender that it threatens to fall apart, which I don't want it to do. My best laid plans to put these carrots underneath are slipping away.
I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna do it.
So I'll do my best here and get them at least into the pot with the meat and everything can cook down together, along with a handful of flavor boosters that have their roots in some pretty old methods. Worcestershire gets splashed in to up the ante, and a heaping tablespoon of reduced beef stock, something long referred to in the old days as portable soup, or a drastically water-reduced way of keeping bone broth. And last but not least, that salt goes in. It's kind of a guess as to how much is needed, but it's always a bit more than I think. The apple cider vinegar has been doing its job perfectly, breaking down the rump. Now it's starting to get later, and we are all well and truly tired from hanging over the campfire all day. But this is the home stretch, and there are promises of a feast just around the corner. The meat is as tender as can be, vegetables tender to the fork, family members are on their way, so it's that last bit of cooking that has to be saved to the end. The tortillas are about to go onto a hot griddle, and it really needs to be piping hot. No fat, no grease, nothing on it, just a super hot piece of iron. Just like when cooking on the indoor wood-burning cook stove, you can't turn the heat up and down, so you move the pots and pans around to find the heat. I'm piling white-hot coals underneath the cast iron. But this part is a guessing game. And if I thought I was done putting wood on the fire, I was wrong.
Okay, we have a little problem. When I put that tortilla on, that first one, it should, within about 60 seconds, puff up and be really hot and even have scald marks underneath it. But it didn't do that because the griddle wasn't as hot as I wanted it to be. even though it had coals underneath it. It's tough to gauge temperature on a campfire, right? So our method was to go and get some little strips of kindling, and we're sticking them underneath it to try to get some hot flame to come up and really get that griddle hot so we can get these tortillas made. Because we don't have all day. The pot roast is done. We gotta get these tortillas on the table. It's a last-ditch effort.
These Old West cowboy tortillas are whipped together with sourdough starter, sifted flour, and a bit of salt, along with some pepper that fell into the bowl while the kids were helping. Dead simple. The dough rose for a bunch of hours, although it really doesn't need to.
May I help?
Equal pieces. Perfect, Goose.
Then we punched it down, and that took us to the next step, shaping. Nothing here has to be perfect. We're just rolling that sourdough as thin as we can get it, dusting with flour so that nothing sticks, and getting on with the work. This is a rustic meal with rich flavors. A flatbread like this is gonna soak up the juices of our main dish and fill up bellies.
Sprinkle.
Thanks.
Yeah, perfect. Keep rolling. And minnow. I love you.
Tortillas are kind of like pancakes. The first one is always for the dog. Then a rhythm gets going and things really pick up.
Whenever one is on the hot griddle, I'm rolling the next one. We take that one off, we put the fresh one on, and I roll again. And we just keep it up until they're all made.
The flames are leaping and the griddle has gone from too cold to screaming hot. So these are taking maybe 10 seconds aside. Then it's onto a tin plate and ready for the table. It's a good thing dinner is almost on because the children have gone feral and I'm ready to put my feet up. Let's pull that pot roast and feed some hungry people.
Our guests are about to arrive any minute. Let's make sure everything is laid the way we want, and we'll get that pot roast off of the campfire.
Just before family walked in, my little Maggie and I threw down an Osnaburg cloth. We put fresh beeswax candles on the table and made the final pass to see that all was right in the cabin. Luckily, with the fire and cooking going on outdoors, the inside of the house was comfortable and clean. Everyone's here. Time to get that pot roast plated and on the table. It has cooked down to perfection. Ooh!
You mind if I shut the door?
Yeah.
Bless us, O Lord, for these thy gifts which we're about to receive, and I have in Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
That's a Santa feather.
I see that.
That's what your mom said.
Alright,
For you.
I'll take it if nobody else wants it, unless you want it.
Maggie, are you going to raise sheep for 4-H? Oh, your dad did,
What are you gonna raise?
and Katie did.
Anything?
You can raise
Cane?
pigs.
You gonna raise Cain?
By the time Maggie's in 4-H, they have interpretive dancing.
You might think after a feast like this that the mountain of dishes would be mighty. But all it really took was a bit of wiping down to get the ash and soot off the cast iron. A bit of a water soak for the Dutch oven saw it well clean. The campfire gave us a good amount of hot water before it died out. All was well and the day was good. Thanks for cooking in the cabin with us today. Come join us for a meal next Saturday. Cheers.
I told you I was good decorator.